Get into it. Coach Colin here. I got another development on this gang, the TDA gang. If you don't know, I did a video, I think about last week, where I was talking about this prison gang that actually has infiltrated the United States of America through the southern border because of Biden's open border policy that he has going, taking away Remain in Mexico, making everything just real easy and accessible. And it has resulted in some terrifying stuff. When I would hear people talk about, oh, terror cells possibly and blah, 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 I was like, okay, okay. But then you saw the terrorist watch list and they were actually catching people who were on it. And I was like, okay. Now, all of a sudden, this is almost more terrifying because this is a big gang and they're basically terrorists. Okay? They really are. They're smuggling guns. They're doing all sorts of crime. They're expanding their reach in New York. They're also in Denver. So it's getting real out of control. This gang has the potential to become like MS-13. If you don't know about that gang, it's a massive El Salvadorian gang that started real small and expanded to thousands and thousands and thousands of people. This gang has the exact same potential. I'm going to be showing you a little update on the NYPD and how they're dealing with this gang because they've moved on from smuggling guns to actually now drugs as well. Then I'm going to show you a clip of two NYPD officers who were attacked by some illegal immigrants. This gang is suspected there as well. Then I'm going to show you more of what Biden's border policy has done. There is a rancher, fourth generation rancher. He's going to be talking about all the bodies that he's been finding on his property. It's absolutely ridiculous. And then after that, I'm going to be showing you an expert who is actually speaking about this gang. He actually knows about this gang in depth, and he's going to be telling the whole story about how President Trump was actually right. The doors to these prisons were actually opened, and these people that are a part of this gang actually did flow out of Venezuela into Ecuador, into America. Let's get into it. First clips first.
Tackle the rapidly escalating violent crime among Venezuelan gang members in the city who have gotten into New York.
Fox 8's Linda Schmidt talked to the NYPD, who says this crime wave is one of their greatest challenges. She joins us live from the newsroom now. Linda, what can you tell us tonight?
Well, basically what you just said right there, this is one of the NYPD's biggest challenges right now. Now, the NYPD expects the migrant Venezuelan gang crimes to actually get worse in this city before it gets better. They're waving the guns around.
Correct.
Waving guns and flashing gang signs on this video. The NYPD says these are suspected members of the ruthless Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua, which has been infiltrating the U.S. for the last 2 years. NYPD Assistant Chief of Detectives Jason Savino telling me it is believed this video was made while the gang members were in Ecuador, and its purpose is to recruit new members.
Then, when you fast forward, you see the same individuals where? In Times Square. So that's our concern.
The NYPD says Tren de Aragua has been making it over the border with the migrant influx and is getting established in New York.
What we do see is they are trying to grow.
The gang has gone from petty crimes like shoplifting and stealing cell phones and jewelry to all-out shootouts in the streets. Alleged gang member Bernardo Raul Mata recently confessing to police that gang members are being instructed to shoot police officers. Mata is charged with shooting two officers after they stopped him for riding a moped the wrong way on a one-way street in Queens. In court, an assistant district attorney revealing what Mata told investigators about the gang.
Tren de Aragua members are smuggling firearms into city shelters inside food delivery packages. That way they don't have to go through the metal detector.
Guns being smuggled into migrant shelters in food delivery packages that are not being screened. The gang violence is escalating, and now drugs are coming into the picture.
We're just starting to see a drug called Tusi, which is a pink cocaine type substance.
It seems like this is a huge challenge.
It's as big of a challenge as we faced.
The NYPD has faced difficult challenges in the past and is determined to win this fight to keep New Yorkers safe.
We're having success. We're taking down networks of individuals. We're up to the task and we'll accomplish it.
Now, today, I also reached out to City Hall about security and metal detectors at the city-run migrant shelters, and I asked them why food containers are not being screened for possible weapons or drugs. Now, I was told those items are supposed to be screened every single time. And now the city is now retraining security personnel at all city-run migrant shelters. Natasha, Teresa, back upstairs to you.
Wow. There's some stuff going on, man. Absolutely crazy. So this gang is growing, man. They're in Ecuador. The next thing you know, they're in Times Square. You know, I will just say before I move on to the next clip, notice how this guy, you know, they show him in a shootout. He can walk. Then all of a sudden he's in court. He's in a wheelchair. NYPD doesn't say a thing about it. Nobody explains why he's in a wheelchair now. I'm just saying. I don't wish harm on anybody. It just seems like the police officers are like, I don't know. He shot at 2 of our guys. He ended up in a wheelchair. I don't know. Sometimes it happens. Sometimes you shoot at a cop and next thing you know, you wake up, you're in a wheelchair. You know, you can't walk. I don't know. It's not up to me. Hey, Johnson, you know what happened? Nah, I don't know. He's in a wheelchair. It's nice, though. It's nice, shiny, moves good, you know? That's all. I don't know. I don't know, man. This guy's shooting at cops. I'll never say anybody deserves anything like that, but you can't be shooting at cops and not expect to end up in a wheelchair. It happens from time to time. Gotta say, this is another incident that happened. Just to touch on what they just said. Ecuador, it's a Venezuelan gang. They're also talking about how that thing Tusi, I couldn't show it on the screen too much, but they were talking about how it's a pink powdery substance. So these guys have moved on, probably not moved on. They're probably including it now. They're upping what they're doing in regards to crime. They're upping what they're doing. They're going from firearms into the shelters. Now they have this stuff called Tusi that's out on the street. This is wild what's happening in New York right now. This went from just Eric Adams, the mayor, just making terrible decisions and just, you know, it just seemed like he's a silly mayor, just making bad decisions, to now they have a real problem on their hands. A real problem. Not to mention, I've done episodes on this as well, how people are talking about the massive uptick in just random violence, in just crazy people, just punching people in the faces randomly, things of that nature. New York is getting out of control. And I know if you're there, it probably doesn't feel like it that much, but that's not what everybody's saying. You know, the episode that I did covering it, there was a lot of people in the streets who were like, yeah, it's really like that. You know, one gentleman who was talking, he's like, yeah, I randomly got punched in the face. You know, like it's crazy. Anyways, listen to this. 2 NYPD police officers attacked outside a shelter.
Migrants facing gang assault charges after allegedly beating up 2 New York City police officers. New York Post is reporting that the 2 cops were checking on unattended children outside a migrant shelter when they were jumped. Queens DA putting out this statement, quote, they approached a group of nearby adults to make sure that the children were being supervised. At that point, approximately 5 adults began punching, kicking, and shoving the officers, with 2 assailants throwing bikes and striking the cops. So 4 of the suspects were arraigned yesterday, charged with assault, child endangerment, and a laundry list of other charges.
It's wild that the thing that she says isn't that they got deported. You would think that would be the sentence. They beat up some cops. We're not sure what happened, but now they're on the way back to where they came from. That would just make sense. And, you know, that's not a wild perspective that I'm having there. Someone who comes to the country legally would suffer those consequences. I don't understand why this massive group of millions of people are not seeing the same consequences that we've seen for years. before this administration for years, illegal or not, legal or illegal in regards to being an immigrant. If you did crime, you got deported. And now it's just off the table. It's the weirdest thing. Here's another story. And just remember, you know, I'm always open about my biases. I don't like the way Biden's running the country. I don't like the way he's handling the border. But I will say, and you know, this is not my bias speaking, he is responsible for all this. What he has done within his first week of being president caused all of this. This is the ripple effect. And there's going to be more of a ripple effect as time goes on. Here's a 4th-generation rancher talking about his experience. He has a property that spans about 10 miles along the southern border. He's in Arizona. Listen to this.
And now on to John Ladd. He's a 4th-generation.
Of course I'm going to slow it down. Why is it so fast? I just always do this to myself.
Cattle rancher from Arizona whose property spans 10.5 miles along the U.S.-Mexico border. And he joins me now. John, I have been reading some of your comments about what you come across on your own property with illegals crossing over your property every day of every week. Is it true that you've actually found dead bodies, and how many?
Well, we've found 17 over the last 30 years, and thank you for having me.
Well, what have you found since the Biden folks have taken over the border? Obviously, a completely different approach than Donald Trump had, which was to turn people back at the border, Title 42. How bad have things gotten for people who own land along the border?
Well, this is the worst it's ever been, even though the numbers don't match what it was before Donald Trump. Donald Trump had the border figured out, and the 4 years he was president, it was almost non-existent for us. We got spoiled. As soon as Biden took office, we had groups at the house again. We had cut fences. It's been a 24-hour nightmare with Biden being president.
Well, the thing that I've noticed, and I noticed it when I was down in Del Rio and in Eagle Pass, and it might seem like it's nothing to people because they're thinking of it's a lot of hardship and obviously death and suffering of people. But the trash that you guys have had to pick up is stunning. All these environmentalists and this trash everywhere.
Yeah, and the environmentalists don't even want to talk about it. But the big thing that we have, we don't have the give-ups, the asylum seekers. We have the illegals that are in full camouflage and carpet shoes. They don't want to get caught. And about 2/3 of them down here are getaways because of what Biden did to Border Patrol and removing the agents off of the border to go process the illegals coming from other sectors.
You've also...
Wild, man. Wild. Again, you know, I just did an episode. Jasmine Crockett is talking about how she is shocked that people think that Trump is better in regards to the economy than Biden is, based on the fact of how they answered the questions in the debate. That doesn't matter. You know, I only say that to compare it to this guy. This guy doesn't need to know what Trump or Biden said during the debate. He just goes and counts the bodies. It's not even funny, but it's so crazy. He goes and counts the bodies that are on his property. And he just said, oh, there's 4 years. There's no bodies. Fantastic. And then all of a sudden Biden comes. He's like, oh, okay, there's bodies again. Something's going on. He doesn't even have to watch the news. He's like, somebody's doing something to the border. Because my fence is cut. There's a body over here. There's clothing over here. There's trash everywhere. Okay. Something's going on. That's all he needs. We don't need these guys to answer questions crazily in debates, you know? You don't need Trump to really trounce over Biden in the debate. You can just go based off the presidencies in reality, you know? And you can just go based off this. Who's Joe looking at? I might pull this picture up every episode. Who's Joe looking at? Hey, look at this. Trump's looking at the moderators. They're asking him a question. Who's Joe looking at? The moderators are sitting together. They're at one desk. They're not that far away. Who's Joe looking at? Oh man. What a debate that was. And there's going to be another one. Come on. And honestly, just this right here, out of all the things that he did, because this is like just a small list of the things that he did, and a lot of this is he did this within, remain in Mexico, refused to fund the wall, voted against high. All of this was done very quickly. These three that are detrimental, they were done very quickly. Even if he just reinstated remain in Mexico, the flow would stop dramatically. Now think of December 2023. There was 322,000 illegal immigrants who were let into the country because they showed up. All of those people would have had to remain in Mexico. All of the people month after month would all have to remain in Mexico. And maybe that would have made Mexico say, oh, this is not working out for us anymore. Because currently they're just allowing an invasion. They're just like, yeah, it's that way. It's that way. Yeah, go ahead. Maybe if we had remained in Mexico still, they'd be like, hey, maybe we should work together. You're trying to build a wall. We'll help you out with that. No. Just doing that. I'm pretty sure Speaker of the House Mike Johnson said that it would slow things down by 70% if he just reinstated remain in Mexico. And that's something that he took away within the first 48 hours of him being president. Talking about Joe Biden, of course. Now, moving on to this clip, you're going to hear a little bit more about this gang, and you're going to hear that Trump was actually right. It's not an old racist white man talking about things that he doesn't understand when he says they emptied prisons. It really happened. Listen to this.
And that's coming here to the cities of the United States.
So you said they started moving north around 2021. Obviously, that's when Joe Biden took office. So our border was open. They were able to make their way up. I've always wondered this, and we've talked about this on the show before. I mean, Donald Trump talked about the prisons being opened in Venezuela in particular, and then being emptied, and these gang members coming out. Our intel had to know that was happening, correct?
Yes, I mean, when President Trump said that, oftentimes, like many times before, the media ridiculed him. They said that that's not true, that's an exaggeration. They looked at it like a conspiracy theory. But if you had been paying attention to Venezuela, like I do, like my senator does, it was obvious. The prisoners have been controlling the Venezuelan prisons since about 2009. They actually gave over the prisons to the prisoners in a system where the prisoners are the wardens. It's called pranatos. And so that whole system collapsed, and basically all the prisoners started fleeing out of the country, much like many Venezuelans, and then they started to push north. And so that information was obviously available to the U.S. intelligence services. Our partner intelligence nations, intelligence services and other partner nations also had this information, but the U.S. either did nothing about it, choose to ignore it, or just wasn't prepared for that kind of onslaught that's happened into the border.
So what should we know about, and really quick, I don't have a lot of time, but I want people to understand, how is this gang different from any other gang? In other words, are we prepared as Americans for what kind of havoc this criminal gang, the Tren de Aragua, could wreak on America and citizens?
You know what makes them different, and what makes it different is there's the potential to have support from the Venezuelan government. We heard of Hezbollah, for example, as a terrorist group that has state sponsorship from Iran. Everyone knows that, and that makes Hezbollah so much more powerful than a lot of other Islamist terrorist groups. Well, the Tren de Aragua is like the Hezbollah for transnational organized crime because they have state sponsorship from the Venezuelan regime.
Whew. Wow. So it really did happen. And it's a little different than what everybody's thinking. People are thinking, a warden was like, open it up, and this is what's going to happen. If the prisoners were able to take over, prisoners just decided, let's get out of here, guys. All right, let's go. But, in all honesty, it's all seriousness, it's crazy. It's crazy what's going on with this gang. I'm going to keep you guys updated on this gang because this is very interesting. And again, this is directly connected to the border policies that are in place currently. And I know that Biden put in an executive order recently, but that order is not doing anything. It was a pacifier. It's for people who read headlines. It's for people who do the street interviews when some YouTuber comes up to them. Pretty soon it's going to be me, and they say, hey, like, what do you think of Biden on the border? And they're going to be like, yeah, he put in an executive order. I saw he did that. That's pretty good. They have no idea that it does nothing. Nothing. It's absolutely ridiculous. And it's turning into massive gangs. Like maybe the bet was, hey, we're going to get some voters. So people are going to work. You know, there's going to be a lot of places where we're going to be able to, you know, maybe that was the plan. But now it's turning into there's big, and this is not the only gang. Just keep in mind, this is just one of the ones that's growing the fastest. There's also a Chilean one that exists right now. And out in Michigan, they actually combined forces because it was like a small sector of TDA, this Chilean gang, and they combined together and they started doing high profile home invasions. They started going to nice neighborhoods and doing home invasions. This is crazy. Absolutely crazy. And you have Biden to thank. One more time. Who are you looking at? Hey, who are you looking at? Look at yourself, buddy. Absolutely ridiculous. Anyways, guys, like, subscribe, turn on the notifications, helps the channel tremendously. And other than that, I'm out.